Rev up your engines!
Well, Toyota's in dire financial straits. Their sales dropped 42%. They haven't been able to build the vehicles. You can't sell what you don't have. Now in 2021, their sales are down 30%. But the first quarter of this year, they're down 42%. The COVID knocked it down. A bunch of it from China. They got a lot of parts from China, and those were all shut down. So they couldn't build the cars. And they say the rising cost of materials cost them $2.36 billion. Now, they say it's not going to last forever. They say they're still planning on producing 9.7 million cars this financial year. That's not the regular year, it's whatever, and they have their finance go from what part of the month, one year to the next. They're not just calendar years. Even Toyota's been whacked by this. Can't build enough cars, can't sell enough cars, and the cost of materials is going up. But at least you notice they're not like Tesla. They just don't keep raising and raising the price of their stuff 8 or 10 times a year. They're not stupid people. They're looking at it in the long run. That's what kept the Japanese car companies going. They have a long-term plan, not just make a bunch of money here for the next quarter so our stock will go up. They think differently in Japan. Well, here's some fake news for you. Lordstown Motors, it's making electric vehicles, reports its first profit ever, which is kind of interesting. You look at stuff on paper, and that's why all these statistics often mean nothing. They still haven't produced a single vehicle that anybody's bought. Okay, so how did they make a profit? Well, they're selling off things. They sold off some of their assets, including its Ohio assembly line. They sold that to a Taiwanese company. So, what a joke. Well, look, the company made its first profit by selling parts of itself off. Eventually, they could sell all the parts and say they made a profit, but the company won't exist. Talk about doublespeak. They said they gained more than $100 million. Yeah, they're selling themselves off. I wouldn't call that a good plan, especially since they haven't produced a single vehicle for anybody to buy yet. They also claim the all-electric pickup truck is going to be up later this year, but they've claimed lots of things that never came true before. Now, in 2021, they said they had $586 million in reserve. But by March of 2022, they said they only had $203 million in reserve. So they sold the one plant. I mean, it's kind of a joke. They'll sell themselves off in order to keep themselves going. It's kind of like they're eating themselves. Some creature that eats itself, and eventually there's nothing left. And that's what a lot of this electric stuff is, if you ask me, a giant fantasy. Boss, should I replace my pads and rotors with aftermarket ones? I got a 2021 Toyota 4Runner, and the dealer wants $1,100 to change them. Can I use aftermarket? Sure, why not? I love the Akabono pads. Japanese company makes great brake pads. Their ceramic pads are excellent. I would buy those. It's a 2021. Do you really need rotors? You might not need rotors. The dealer's going to sell you rotors because that's how they want to sell you crap, right? Say you're going down a highway at 65. You hit the brakes hard. If the steering wheel doesn't shake back and forth, the front rotors are not warped and you can use them over. If the back rotors are warped, you slam on the brake pedal will get some pulsation. If it's not pulsating, you could use those rotors over and you won't even have to change them. It's only a 1-year-old car. The rotors are probably not worn out. Now, if they are worn out, the pads are the most important thing if you don't like noise and you want long life. The rotors, you can buy them at many different places. There's all kinds of people that sell rotors. My only advice is don't go to a discount auto parts store and buy the cheapest rotors you can get. Buy the most expensive ones that they sell because they're a higher quality than the cheaper ones. Sometimes you can get rotors for $25 a piece. Don't buy those. Buy the ones that are $50 or $60 a piece. Don't buy the real cheap ones. They're just too cheap. Sebastian says, what's your opinion on 2014 Ford Explorer? I have one with a 3.5 V6 engines. Are they solid? I had a 3-liter V6 in my 05 Escape in high school. It was reliable and I beat the heck out of it. The only thing that I got against V6 engines and Fords are I'm not a fan of the EcoBoost ones. I would not buy one that has twin turbos with their V6 engines. I just wouldn't. Twin turbos, they break, they cost a fortune. All that extra pressure into the engines wear out faster. And of course, what do people do with turbos? They're always flooring it. When you floor it, they rev higher, so the engine's spinning faster, and it'll make it wear out faster too. So if it's not turbo, yeah. If it's turbo, no, I wouldn't buy it. Camry 96 says, I got an 03 Corolla, 165,000 miles. My mass sensor reading is high at 2 grams a second. The long-term fuel trim is -10, so it's running rich. And then I got a good known MAF sensor, does the same thing. What can I do? Well, it's subtracting 10% fuel, so it thinks the vehicle's running rich. You tried another known good MAF sensor, and it did the same thing, right? So for some reason, your engine's running rich, and it's not the MAF sensor itself, right? You probably have dirty fuel injectors. And when they get dirty, then instead of spraying a nice clean spray of an upside down cone, it's bloppy. And it will run rich because it's only made to run with a nice mist. If it's bloppy, then it'll run wrong. It'll be throwing fuel all over the place and it can run rich. So first have your fuel injectors clean. You might need to replace them, but it is a Toyota. And generally at 165,000, they don't need replacing yet. They might not need replacing until they get 300,000-400,000 miles on them. They're so well made. Try cleaning the fuel injectors first. You'll probably find the fuel trims will go back down to normal. I see that all the time in those. Josh G says, my Ford Explorer 2006 has the theft code 16 and it won't start. I changed the fuse, it doesn't help, it comes, it goes. Help! Have you been listening to old Scotty here? Always have at least 2 known good keys. Put the spare one in a drawer that you remember, right? Get the spare one out, see if your car works fine. If it does, you just got a worn out key, and then with your new key that works, drive to a locksmith and get another spare. Then it's that simple. If that doesn't fix it, okay, with code 16, you got a problem in the anti-theft system. You can't fix it yourself. You can't diagnose it yourself. You need a fancy scan tool like I have that costs thousands of dollars, and then you got to be able to reprogram it when you're done. You got 2 choices then. Take it to a mechanic or the dealer, or my suggestion, take it to a locksmith. Many locksmiths work on anti-theft systems on Fords. They work a lot cheaper than the mechanics in the dealerships do. I've seen people get them fixed for $140 at a locksmith where the dealer wanted $900 to do the same repair. That's what I do. You can't fix the stuff yourself beyond getting the right one, getting a key that works, trying a new battery in your key and all that crap. But if that doesn't work and you don't have a known good key that works, that's in the drawer, you take it out and start it, then you're going to have to either see a mechanic or a locksmith. You got to have too much equipment. You got to reprogram it. It's an expensive endeavor. You've got to pay somebody to do it then. So Sharpie says, I have oxidated headlights. I got a 2017 Honda Accord. My headlights kind of oxidized. How can I clean them? There's a million ways you can clean them. You can even use toothpaste, but they're already oxidized. That means they've been damaged. The best one I found is the 3M headlight cleaning kit. They sell it at all the auto parts store. It comes with various stages, and you can use it all, and in the end there's a little sealer you spray to try to prevent it from oxidizing again. And they work quite well, only you'll have to keep using them over and over again, because once they're oxidized, it's been damaged, and it will oxidize even quicker because the plastic has been oxidized. A bunch of the plasticizers has evaporated that keeps them supple, so you're going to have to polish them a lot. Now, for those of you that don't have oxidized headlights yet, here's my advice. Get a can of Plexus. It's a spray, polish, and preservative. It stops UV rays from ruining them. You do that 3 or 4 times a year, just like cleaning. You spray it on like Windex, then you wipe it off and polish it. That prevents them from oxidizing in the first place. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Polish them up, and it works great on any kind of plastic. Motorcycle helmets, motorcycle windshields, body panels, anything that's plastic or fiberglass. That really protects it really well. They invented it for fighter jets so they could see around to keep it all clean. It also, interesting enough, is anti-static, so they don't get as dusty. I use it on all kinds of stuff, and then, the dust doesn't collect, because a lot of reason dust collect on your car is because the static electricity sucks it in, and this neutralizes it so it doesn't get dusty either. It's amazing stuff. Egg 408 says, my O2 Camry has a slow takeoff. Got 145,000 miles. I bought it for $230. Woman said the transmission was bad. It wouldn't go into gear. Towed it to the dealer. They said you need a new transmission. It sat for 2 weeks, and I bought it for $230. I drove it home. I replaced the fluid and some Lucas tranny fix. It's been driving fine, but it's slow to go into drive. I took it in a mountain, and it did fine, but then 3 times, it's very slow at taking off. What do you think I should do? You paid $230 for the thing. I'm not always in agreement with the dealership, but in this case, I'm pretty sure they were right that your transmission is going out. Now, you change the fluid and put Lucas transmission fix, so now it's at least moving, but I can just about guarantee you it's got internal wear and the transmission's going to have to be rebuilt or replaced. It costs so much money. Now, if you're a gambling man, go to a junkyard, get a used transmission. The Camry's transmissions are pretty strong. So you could get a used one. It still might be pretty good. Might still have a reasonable amount of life in it. Now, the reason it's not accelerating is because the transmission is not working correctly. I've seen transmissions go out where the cars hardly could even move. They weren't slipping. They just could barely move because there was so much friction inside the transmission because it was breaking down that it could barely get all the power of the engine to make it go very fast at all. So decide, do you want to put another transmission in, maybe try a junkyard one, or just give up. You only paid $230 for it, so what the heck? You didn't pay much money. That's not very much money. Odds are the tranny is going on. You decide, do you want to spend, $4 or $5 grand doing it over, or do you want to try a used transmission, or just want to give up? You only paid $230 for it. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.